Calling the zoning hearing board meeting for October 15th at Lower Township of Lower Makefield to order. At the immediate moment, we have 4 members of the board online, so everybody understands that means a majority is 3. So if there's 2 votes against, it doesn't pass, so keep that in mind when you come forward if it's a concern to you. First up, we have Appeal Z 24-13, and they've asked for a continuance, but does anybody have any comment on it? Okay.
I'll make a motion to continue Appeal 24-13 until November 19th, 2024.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, and we seem to have lost our board member online.
Aye.
Aye. Mike, are you still there? Yep, okay.
I was having a snack, I'm sorry.
All right. Understanding, well, next up is Appeal Z 24-26. If Mr. Flager reads in the exhibits while the appellants come forward or come online.
That's BOHN and
BOHN,
BOTTI,
BOHN.
1120 Cambridge Court.
So you can sit down at the table there and you'll get sworn in.
Do you want to give them the option to waiting for that, or
Okay, we have the application as A1, site plans as A2, B1, proof of publication, B2, proof of posting, and B3, notice to the neighbors.
Would you each state and spell your full name, please?
Kelly Botti, that's KELLYBOTTI.
And Rob Wagner, ROBWAGNER.
Do you both solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead and explain to us what it is you're looking to do here, the variances.
So the proposed addition that we're looking to do consists of a small kitchen addition and a covered deck, which is represented by the crosshatched area on the site plan. Both of them together work out to be approximately 530 square feet. As you can see, the lot is kind of a regular shape, so with the way the house is positioned on there, makes it difficult for us to kind of increase the footprint of the house in any direction. So with the footprint that we came up with for the addition, the kitchen addition on the right side reduces the rear yard setback from the required 45 to 40 foot 9 inches. And then on the left side of the proposed addition, which is the covered deck, that reduces the 15-foot side yard setback to 12 foot 7. And I do have a couple other dimensions on there shown to where the new deck step is going to come down. That's the 33-foot 6 dimension. And there's a little bit of an extra uncovered section of the deck that encroaches to 40 feet from the rear property line. But those areas don't have a roof over them. They'll be just regular deck, not impervious coverage for that portion of the deck. We're still going to be well under our impervious coverage limit for the lot. So we're really just asking for the 2 setback variances on the rear and the side property lines.
Questions from the board?
No, I mean, I'd prefer to wait for public comment before I ask any questions.
I agree. I would like to hear if there was any public comment or if their neighbors have any questions.
Is there any public comment in the room? Okay, is there anybody online? I know the light isn't on. All right. Amazingly, I don't think we have any public comment.
So when I see this, I mean, I look at your lot, and clearly you're constrained by this lot. It's highly unusual. So the reason I wanted to wait until we saw if we had public comment, I just wanted to see if we had any neighbors who you abut who might have come forward and they had a problem with it. Because clearly, there's probably some minor solutions we could have suggested, but I'm fine with it, assuming nobody came forward and has a problem with it. So you can count on me to support this.
Dan put up the aerial of it, and I guess one of the questions here is, did you talk to your neighbors, and what is going on with the immediate adjacent lots that you're backing up to there?
Yes, we did speak to our neighbors. Our neighbors in the back are non-communicative to us at this present time. So we do have a tree line.
I just picked up on the beach.
Oh, it's okay, that's my audible, excuse me. We do have a tree line that we erected between us and our immediate backyard neighbor, but.
And what's going on with the side lot there?
We're very close to those neighbors. They're in full support and agreement of our desire so we can remain in the neighborhood.
To the left you're talking
And the
about?
Yeah, the one that'd be adjacent.
That's the retention basin for the.
Oh,
subdivision.
okay.
Yep.
Well, there's answers that. So the neighbor's the township. Does the township have any comment?
Yeah.
Actually, I believe that's a
It's
homeowners
private. Yeah,
association basin.
It's an HOA.
Yeah, it's the HOA, and they were notified too.
And you have no problem, the homeowners association is aware. That's important for you more than us.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't see any real issues. I mean, that's a very large setback. I'm not sure why the setback was, does anyone have any history on why it's that far, the building from the property line, that's so large a setback?
This is just setbacks that the township had come up with in years past. The rear yard, I believe, used to be 40 feet years ago,
Yeah.
but the front setback was greater, was 40 feet. So we decided to try to move houses a little bit closer to the road so that there's less driveway, less impervious created, and more of a usable rear yard area. So at some point in time, the ordinance changed from a 40-foot rear yard setback to a 45-foot rear setback. That was that was well before this lot was created.
Okay.
So that's just where the setbacks came from.
Okay. Hearing no further comment, make a motion to approve Appeal Z24-26 as written.
I will make a motion to approve appeal number Z24-26 as written.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, there you go.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Appreciate it.
Next up is Appeal Z24-27. Mr. Flagler can read in those exhibits, and those appellants come up and get sworn in.
All right, we have the application as A1, site plans as A2, B1, proof of publication, B2, proof of posting, and B3, notice to the neighbors.
Would you each state and spell your full name, please?
Eric Suber, E-R-I-C-S-U-B-E-R.
Brian Wolfgang, BRIAN-WOLFGANG.
Do you both solemnly swear or affirm testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Go ahead.
So.
Dan, can you put the plan up? Oh, Jim's doing that.
We're proposing to add a 20-foot by 24-foot garage to the front of the house and looking for relief on the front yard setback. We're over 5 feet, and I believe it comes out to about 0.8 in impervious for the space, because where the new garage is going to go is going to cover majority of the garage is going to cover a portion of the existing driveway, so we're not adding a whole lot there. Currently, the house sits on the property at 55 feet, but if you actually measure it, it's 65 feet from the current road, because I believe that road is in the plans for the township to be widened at some point if they'd ever want to do that, which it's been probably since the 60s when that house was built. It's never happened, so there is an actual 10 extra feet of yard in the front there. Obviously, it's not the homeowners, but we are sitting, like I said, 65 feet, not actually 55 feet off the current road.
Nice little street.
Okay.
What is the impervious surface? 18 allowed, and it's,
If they're 18 allowed, and they're going to 20.9. They were at 20.1.
yeah, I know they were. And I'm just wondering about, well, no, it's not, they're not on the water, so that's but there's water. Isn't that area?
Well, the creek is on the left
Right,
of,
it's on
the
the
creek is
left.
left of the photo there, and
Right,
we've heard
it's left.
concerns in the
Now,
past.
Yeah, well,
Creek's on the
living.
other side of the road.
Yeah.
Living in that area, I understand with Little Bridges, and I understand that there have been, when there's a storm, it can be, well, a several-day type of storm. I've been here 48 years, so I kind of know the lay of the land. That's the only, and they go into the water, you know, they drain down towards that creek.
Yep.
Dan, the stormwater management, does it take it back to 18%?
So I believe they were proposing trees. So the trees would bring it back to the 20.1. But if you were to want them to do something more structural, like a trench, roughly a 2 by 4 by 20 foot trench would bring it back to roughly the 18%, which is allowable.
So, do you guys understand that? Yeah, I mean, we love trees, and we encourage them,
This is not.
but just not as a means of stormwater management.
Is there a preference of where that would have to be located, or, because ideally we put it on the right side of the driveway, and that way we'd be able to take the existing, portion of the existing house roof and the new garage, or half of the new garage roof, and put it right into.
So you'd pipe it in directly, because
Yeah, it would be
knowing that lot, otherwise you'd if you're just going to catch from surface drainage, you'd have to parallel Woodland and do it next to the street, so.
So if we put it on that right side, we'd be
Yeah,
able to
and
take
just-
That would be ideal.
right
Yeah.
into the, that's not an issue at all.
Yeah, we can put that in our motion tonight, and it basically would be subject to our township engineer's approval. Okay.
Mike, any comments online before I ask for public? Okay. All right, any public comments in the room? All right, comments online? I will take that as there is nobody online. Yeah. Okay, it looks like we're ready to have a motion.
Excuse me. I move that we approve Appeal Z 24-27 with conditions of a trench to be built or constructed to bring the impervious back to 18%, and that is subject to the township engineer's approval.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
One question, when would we hear from the engineer on that?
Sometime this week, it wouldn't take long.
Okay.
3-4 years, maybe.
Yeah.
You will need to provide a sketch of the size of the trench, a detail of it, and where you'd be locating that.
Okay. Now, is he gonna give us like what dimensions and stuff he wants, or how do you wanna?
Yeah, we can give you the
Yeah.
dimension, we can give you the dimension that would work, and then once you give us the plan with the location of the trench, we could approve it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right. Next up is Appeal Z 24-28. Adam, if you can read in the exhibits, and the appellants in the room, that's Thompson. Are they online?
No, we've known online.
Okay, we will put a SAT aside for the moment and ask again towards the end of the meeting. Next up would be Appeal Z 24-29, BOHN again. Yeah. Go ahead, Adam.
All right, we have once again, the application is A1, the site plans as A2, B1, proof of publication, B2, proof of posting, and B3, notice to the neighbors.
Would you each state and spell your full name, please?
Stephen Bone, Steven, last name B as in boy, OHN.
Kristen Holmes, KRISTIN HOLMES.
Do you both solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Okay, go ahead and present, and the plans should be up on the screen shortly here.
Sure, so thank you. So the application before you is for a proposed swimming pool and pool decking.
Can you make sure that you're audible on the mic, the microphone? It wasn't
Is that
picking you up.
The light's on. Is that better?
Yeah. There you go.
Okay, sorry. So the application tonight is for a proposed swimming pool and pool decking to the rear of an existing single-family home at 14 Oakdale Boulevard. The property is non-conforming to lot area. It is undersized. The request before you is for an impervious coverage variance. We are proposing with the pool decking an impervious coverage of 34.3%, where 29% is permitted as a maximum. The lot size is just under 11,000 square feet, so it is undersized, as I mentioned. We are providing a proposed stormwater underground infiltration trench immediately abutting the pool decking area to capture all of the new impervious that is being proposed. So that includes just under what we have as the maximum and all of the proposed decking to capture that area and treat it for the additional impervious. It is compliant as it relates to pool setbacks, so we are just looking for an impervious variance.
Also, one thing to note, I believe they've actually made the trench a little bit larger than what would be required to capture the entire increase from the existing 26.9% up to what they're proposing. So they're taking it, well, it's below what is
Which they
allowable,
need, yeah.
plus some.
Questions from the board?
I mean, my question would have pertained to the stormwater management, but Jim just spoke on that, so I'm fine.
Frequently, when seeing that amount of decking relative to the pool size, it kind of raises a flag here sometimes, but it's actually looking at the dimensions here, it doesn't look like the coping's actually that large relative to the space.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty small pool.
Yeah.
It's not a very big pool.
Relative to your point about your lot size seeming to be relatively small for this.
And it is consistent with the neighborhood. There are other pools throughout this neighborhood with similar sized lots.
Any other questions from the board? You got flagged again, by the way. When you're speaking, please try to really speak into the microphone. Is there anybody, public comment in the room? Public comment online?
Nothing online.
Okay. All right, I guess we'll,
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve appeal number Z2429 as written.
I'll second.
any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, is Appeal Z24-28 online yet?
No one online.
Okay, we will go to Appeal Z24-30. Mr. Flager can read the exhibits, and then get sworn in, and we'll see where we go from there.
All right, we have the application as A1, site plans as A2, B1, proof of publication, B2, proof of posting, and B3, notice the neighbors.
State and spell your full name, please.
James McCafferty, James. McCafferty's McCafferty.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Mike McGinnis from Begley Carlin here this evening on behalf of JMAC Investments LLC, the owner of 2010 Yardley Morrisville Road in the township. This site is a little over quarter acre. It's zoned in the R2 district. My client purchased the property approximately a year ago. The lot is, or was, unimproved. It was created via deed going back to 1923, so it's been in existence. We have a record at least of 100 years in the township. My client began construction of a single-family home last fall and was able to meet all of the performance standards associated with this lot, despite the fact that it was non-conforming in a number of respects. Ended up constructing a home which is approximately 2,100 square feet of what we call finished living space. It has all of the requisite improvements and all the planned improvements, which you can see before you this evening, including a driveway and associated stormwater management facilities, including a seepage pit to the rear of the property. Anyone who has been by the home hopefully would agree that client took a lot of effort to make sure the home was designed correctly. It looks nice. It has very nice finishes. Completed the development and had a as-built plan which was circulated and which is before you, and that has revealed what we're here for this evening. The plan south boundary, so if you're looking at the site plan to the south, is within the side yard setback of 0.68 feet. So because of the way this lot was created, it's governed by section 200-22 in the Code of Ordinances. There is a requirement for each side yard setback to be a minimum of 10 feet and an aggregate of 26 feet. The lot size, the lot width, is 60 feet. This, I think if I'm doing the math correctly, if you were to max build a home, you could theoretically have a 34-foot wide home and be compliant with the requirements. I'm stating that because I think someone could have an application like this where we're here after the home has been constructed. You could look at this cynically and say, well, somebody purchased this, they said they could meet the requirements, constructed a home, and then comes in front of the board afterwards seeking forgiveness rather than permission in advance if they were to build, say, a 35-foot wide house. Our width is approximately 28 feet. So we did not max build this. This was not a scenario where we're in both setbacks. This was a very small but clearly an error which has generated the application this evening. My client got under agreement to sell the property. There was a closing that was scheduled. I believe the prospective home purchasers sold the house that they were in. This issue was flagged, necessitated an application to the zoning hearing board to confirm hopefully, the securing of a variance from this board of 0.68 feet from the planned south side yard setback. That closing has been temporarily put on hold, and we're here again for that single variance. I have a bunch of applications where there's some conversation and debate about what constitutes a legally de minimis variance. I would submit that if there is a legally de minimis variance, it is this. So we're here respectfully requesting confirmation that the house, which is otherwise constructed and finished, can remain in its current location to permit a 9.32-foot side yard setback instead of the 10-foot side yard setback, which is otherwise required by ordinance. I do have Mr. McCafferty, who is the representative on behalf of JMAC Investments, who was sworn in. Certainly can elicit testimony from Mr. McCafferty, or I could offer as a proffer and have him swear and affirm that everything I said was true and correct to the best of his knowledge, information, and belief, and then open the matter up for questions. Again, we're apologetic that we're here this evening, but I think on its face certainly is apparent that this was an innocent mistake and not one where there was any designs in advance when the home was constructed. Thank you. And then, Jamie, this is on. You were sworn in. Can you please state your name for the record?
Jamie McCafferty.
All right. And you are a principal of JMAC Investments, is that correct?
It is correct.
And that is the record owner of the subject property?
Yes.
And you heard the summary that I have offered to the board this evening with respect to this property, your engagement with the property, and the situation we find ourselves in this evening. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And if you were called to testify, would you so swear and adopt that summary as your own testimony in full?
I would.
Is there anything else? I guess rephrasing that, can you just do 30 seconds to the board about how you arrived in this position, and then we can open it up for questions?
Well, as you had mentioned, the plan called for a 28-foot wide home. There was plenty of wiggle room, so to speak, because there was a 34-foot wide building envelope. However, the nature of the parcel, there was, I guess, a swale in which some stormwater might run down. So in an effort to keep the home away from that area of the parcel as much as possible, the plan was to build the home up against that 10-foot side yard setback to the other side of the parcel, away from the swale, to protect as much of that and leave as much of that intact as possible.
And it's the south right, it's the southern back right corner that is encroaching, essentially. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Right.
Yes, where the mouse arrow is there.
That's right.
And as you can see to the other side, those dotted lines are elevations in which you can see there's a slope to that side of the property, which is why we were up against the 10-foot side yard setback and didn't leave ourselves a little bit more room. We wanted to leave as much of that swale undisturbed as possible. Through a surveying error, the rear pin was set 8 inches off. 8 inches too far into the side yard setback.
Okay, you're done? Okay.
Yes.
Question here for Dan. So is what they've said accurate with regards to the dimensioning, that if this was 8 inches over, there would be no variance request whatsoever?
Correct, because it's 9.35 requested, so it's roughly 8 inches. So it would be 10 feet if it was less than.
And there would be no variance request at all at that time?
Correct.
Other questions from the board?
Aren't you in a pickle?
Look, I'll be honest, I have having been on the Board of Supervisors and dealt with a couple of builders, not you, I will be honest, that tend to want to say I'm sorry rather than ask permission first. And I do have a problem with that. I also understand when there's a survey, the surveyor made a mistake. I understand that as well. And I appreciate keeping the swale, because I do understand the swales in the water. It took me a while, but I get it. But, I mean, to me, I think the real question is how the neighbors feel, or what can be done to make everybody happier. Is that the nice way to put it? Is that to try to satisfy everyone? So,
Well,
I'm open to listening.
when I look at this situation, I just don't see how we can cut the baby in half. It's, I mean, we've got a house that's built, and we're talking less than a foot. And I do like that you presented points, which is the house is 28 foot wide, not 34 foot wide, and you do have topography constraints on the other side of the lot. So I totally understand it. I do have a question. The engineer who did the survey, are you in litigation with that person right now?
We may be, depending on how this evening goes.
I was just curious. Just wanted to see how adverse that relationship has become since a third party made that mistake. I'm assuming it's a third party, not an engineer who works for you?
Not employed by you.
No, not employed by me.
Okay. What has been the reaction of your neighbor?
So I have heard through the general contractor that there's a neighbor who's unhappy.
They're behind you.
But I haven't met the neighbor.
I understand.
I think there was a question, part of why we did the summary at the beginning about when the lot was created is there was a question about whether the lot was buildable in the first place. So I'm sure that understanding the situation, any home that was constructed here was going to have questions generated to the township about whether it was permitted. And the lot's created and was buildable, but that certainly doesn't help the situation that there was questions about whether this lot was viable for construction in the first place.
So, but you guys did a by right build?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Now, I understand exactly what you're talking about, which is we have a lot that is kind of like a bowling alley, and it's not ideal for development. But if you constrain the improvement, it's doable. So I totally understand what you're talking about. It's just, this is interesting. Anyway, I think I've made enough comments, and I feel like I understand the nature of what's going on here.
The township has indicated they're participating in this, so do you want to make a statement?
Yes, actually, you answered a few of the questions that we had. Had a surveyor actually staked out the building itself. You know, I know I had seen stakes. I wasn't sure if you had laid it out yourself or if you had a professional consultant who had done that, so you addressed that. And I just wanted to state that the township's a little disappointed that obviously that you made this error when it was, you know, a tight lot to begin with, and that, as you had stated, you did have room to go the other direction if you had done things correctly. So that's just what we want to state right there.
Peter, can I ask one question? You mentioned that you had a surveyor stake put in the pin for the corners. Was it a professionally licensed surveyor in Pennsylvania, or was it just someone who did a survey?
The stakeout was handled through the general contractor, so I'm not sure who who did the stakeout, what engineer, what surveyor. Okay. I don't know the answer to that.
Dan, do we have that in the work file?
I'm not sure. Jim, do you know?
I do not know if it was a licensed surveyor who actually laid it out or not.
Okay, this might be a question more to the township. For the property immediately to the south, it looks like they're relatively close to the property line too. What's their offset from the property line? Just for thought process here.
Yeah, I believe they were 16 feet from the property line.
That's not correct. I'm not. They also have a 10-foot setback.
We'll give you time, but
Yeah.
No, only because we won't be able to pick you up and you're not sworn in yet. But we will certainly give you an opportunity.
Yeah, that was based on the survey that had been provided by the applicant.
Okay, any more questions from the board? Okay. Let's ask the board first. Are there any more questions from the board?
No, I'm fine. I'm ready to get to the fun part of it.
Okay. I believe we have a comment from a board supervisor.
Clarifying question, you had mentioned trying to keep the home as far away from the swale as possible. Ultimately, did you have to relocate any section of that swale during construction, or does it remain in place at the same location as pre-construction?
The swale was, I believe, manipulated to be, to accommodate the home. Joe Jones was the surveyor or the engineer, and they designed it so that it would operate the same way, but I believe the swale is not as wide as it once was.
So generally, I'm just trying to figure out what that swale was servicing, if it was part of an easement or anything like that, and then ultimately if it's swales generally look at volumes and rates, right? So it's a cross-sectional area. So if he's changing the dimensions, want to make sure it still operates the same way, and then figure out. Often when you have a swale, it comes with an easement or something like that, and it's servicing something. I'm just curious what that's tied to.
There was no easement tied to this swale, and I believe there was a disconnected storm outlet that went underneath Yardley Morrisville Road. So it was essentially a one grate that went underneath the road and sort of spilled out into that swale.
It's actually on the plan there in the upper left.
Yeah, the swale starts on the adjoining lot to the north and then passes through this lot. The original swale would have clipped that back corner of the house, so they pushed it out to be not obviously where they're building. And then once you get past the house, the swale sort of disappears. It's just pretty much flat yard for several hundred feet before it gets picked up, I believe, by a storm drain well downstream.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, yeah.
If the swale was disrupted for the corner of the house, why didn't you just redirect, as you did for the corner, for the whole house, so we wouldn't have this issue? I mean, you disrupted the swale. You didn't leave it as it was. You had to do something for the corner of that house. Mr. Majewski has always been correct on this. Why didn't, if you were going to do it for the corner, why didn't you do it for that side, the 6 inches, maybe a foot, and we wouldn't be in this situation right now?
So we didn't intentionally move the house 8 inches too far. We did move the home to the right of the parcel as much as possible, still meeting the side yard setback. However, the 8-inch mistake was the wrong way.
The intention was for a 22-foot setback to the plan north and a 10-foot setback to the plan south, and what ended up happening was a 22.7-foot setback to the plan north and a 9.3-foot setback to the plan south.
And if you look at the as-built survey there, you'll see that the one corner of the house is approximately 10 feet, and the other one is, it was off.
Just off.
Nobody wanted to be here. this evening. So it was, unfortunately. I'm sure that's true for the neighbors, as the board, and
I
for us
guarantee you
as
that's
well. And the
true.
additional costs and the delay of the settlement, it's a situation that obviously could have been avoided.
Okay, so.
I do have a question that either Dan or Jim may be able to answer. So, in the past, have these situations arisen, Jim? Do you have any recollection of them? Dan, do you have a recollection of this?
Yes, I'm not sure if anyone here was on the board at the time, but we did run into a similar situation about maybe 5 or 6 years ago, where we had an addition that was built. It was supposed to be a 15-foot setback, and somehow they didn't execute it correctly, and were over the line by, I think, 4 or 5 inches, might have been 6 inches. And they had to come before the board to get a variance.
How was it resolved? With variance?
A variance was granted by the zoning hearing board.
And what was there any? How does code enforcement work in a situation like this? Are fines meted out? Anything like that? I mean, I know that has nothing to do with the governance of the zoning board. I'm just curious about that.
Well, no fine would be issued necessarily for this.
Okay.
Okay, I guess we're up for public comment now. We'll start with public comment in the room and then move to public comment online. So if you can come up to the podium there, make sure the microphone's on, and clearly state your name and address, and get sworn in.
Would you state and spell your full name, please?
Julie, Julie. Pulvers, P as in Paul, UL, V as in Victor, ER, S as in Sam, hyphen. Zito, Z as in zebra, ITO. My address is 2008 Yardley, Morrisville Road, so I'm next to the 2010 house.
Do you solemnly, hold on one second.
Oh.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes. So please bear with me.
Please use the
Oh,
microphone because it's got to pick up for people not hearing on.
It comes out of the carriage if you want to take it out of the carriage.
So before addressing the immediate concerns of the resident's setback location, I'd like to discuss how it was possible that the building plans were approved with no variance requirements to begin with. The first sale of my lot of 2008 Yardley Road was in 1951, which included an additional 20 feet of land that was part of the lot of the 2010 Yardley Road. According to the deed dated 1951 to 2008 Yardley Road, and the additional 20 feet of land from 2010 Yardley Road was purchased from the Westover Corporation. 2010 Yardley Road, with the dimensions of 60 feet by 190 feet, was established in 1951. The purchase of the additional 20 feet of Lot 4 was clearly to prevent a residence from being constructed in accordance with building codes of that time. This was also confirmed by current neighboring residents who resided in Westover at the time of the purchase.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Yes.
Okay, are you stating things you know to be fact, or are you stating
It's in the deed.
it's in the deed?
Yes.
In other words, that there's somewhere in the deed it says that
This other 20
this other lot
is
can't be developed.
I don't know if it says it can't be.
'Cause that's the
developed, or
language you
stating
used.
the 20%. or
No,
the-
I understand that the 20-foot assemblage, that's in the deed, I understand that. But your exact language was, it was done so the
So there
remaining
potentially
lot,
wouldn't be
the remainder
any
couldn't be
construction.
developed, and you said it's in the deed. Is that language anywhere in the deed?
Do not think it is.
Okay, I just,
She,
okay, I'm just saying, so that part of your testimony is more or less hearsay.
here are my concerns, even though everybody thinks it's a very minimal mistake that was made. I am the house that's being impacted by this. First is the noise pollution. There are large raised air conditioning units on the side of the house that is in between us. They are loud and the sound is amplified when they're raised off of the ground. The house is already less than 10 feet from my property line, which makes the units less than 4 feet from the line. The noise from the units makes my deck and sunroom impossible to use during the months that I should be enjoying it with my family. Second, the lawn maintenance and rear yard access with such a narrow width and an extremely deep decline. How will the homeowners be able to properly maintain the yard and also not encroach on our property? There's no access on the other side of the yard to the backyard either, as there is a large wall of boulders. Third are drainage issues. There is a drainage pit created on the side of the house. The rainfall from the gutters does not flow into this drain. Where there is rainfall, it creates a very muddy and flooded area, not only on their property, but also mine as well now. Prior to the house being constructed, there has never been flooding and muddy areas in that location that's been so close to my home. With these new conditions, my property could potentially now be damaged. The fourth issue that I have right now is the placement of their propane tanks. Like the air conditioning units, they're on that side of the house with the setback variance is being requested for. They're balancing on cement blocks that are not enclosed or secured, the same area that becomes flooded and muddy now during the rain. I am concerned that this poses a safety concern because they're very close to my home. And all it takes is the mud to slowly move these concrete blocks at some point, and a propane tank could potentially move. While I have informed Jim of this, we've talked and he said they're heavy and they're not gonna move. But with the decline and them not being enclosed or secured, that is a big concern for me and my family. I'm concerned that this house was built without necessarily having the proper surveys done. And now that the house is built, I assume the variance will be given because it's not like you can potentially move the house at this point.
I want to ask a question here to the township. I believe most of those issues that were brought up are not related to the variance, but are potentially zoning or code enforcement issues if they're relevant. I believe there wasn't a variance one there other than the discussion on the setback.
Correct, yeah, the concerns aren't related to the variance that's being heard tonight.
Yeah, I understand that, right? But, so Ms. Pulver's making a point about 4 different things. You know, James, you're right, Jamie,
yes.
Jamie, you're asking for a variance, right? You actually need a variance.
Yes, sir.
I mean, is there any way to work with this neighbor to move your AC condensers, your propane tanks, possibly put a fence up on that side, mitigate stormwater? I don't know, but.
Some landscaping potentially?
Yeah, I mean, like, if I'm sitting in Jamie's seat and I've developed real estate before, I'm like, okay, what can I do to accommodate Ms. Pulver so this doesn't turn into something I really don't want it to?
Yeah, I'm certainly more than happy to work out a solution to try and help alleviate some of those concerns. If the propane tanks, there's a fear of them falling over and moving, we could certainly pour a concrete slab for them to sit on. If you would prefer some arborvitaes or a fence down the property line, I'd be happy to put landscaping or fencing in place.
We would prefer all of this. It's about our privacy that was taken away. It's about part of our house that we can't enjoy right now.
Well, I mean, a little bit of reasonableness is, we're talking about 7 inches, so when you come to us and you're raising these points, I'm definitely sympathetic, and I think most of the board is. But again, they did a by right development that an engineer who screwed a pin up messed up. So in a perfect world, we figure out a way to help out Jamie and also alleviate this stuff which is clearly a nuisance to you. That's kind of how I feel. Like, I'm a big public comment guy, and I know Judy's a big public comment lady, right, Judy? You're a big public comment lady, right?
Me?
Yeah. Are you listening to me, Judy? We lost you tonight?
I'm listening. I'm trying to take this in. this is what somebody used to, what a Hobson's choice. There's no perfect. And I'm always the person that has said for over 25 years, not every piece of property needs to have something built on it. But unfortunately, that's, the cart's already in the, it's already there. And I think that the best solution is trying to work out, well, I understand the noise pollution better than you can imagine, but is trying to work something out to, you know, give you your privacy, which I certainly understand, and do something to mitigate the noise as best as possible.
Yeah, I think
I'm
your
not an
engineer might be
engineer,
planting
so-
arborvitaes.
Go ahead, Jim.
I know from speaking with the homeowner, the concern she has about the propane tanks. I know, like in a floodplain, they'll take propane tanks and they'll anchor them down to the ground. Is there a way that you could anchor it to the foundation so that it can't, not that it's going to blow away in the wind, but if something happens, it shifts, that it could somehow be anchored to the house with strapping so that it won't move? Or in lieu of that, potentially pouring that slab there as suggested so that it's a more solid base than just the way you have it situated right now?
Yeah, I can certainly commit right now to pouring the concrete slab and having it attached in some way to that slab. I don't know that it could be strapped to the home, but I can certainly commit to pour a concrete slab, get them off the blocks, attach all 3 tanks to the slab itself.
Okay. You could actually probably use a cage, similar to like if you go into the city, they'll cage central air condensers in and propane tanks so they don't get stolen. I'm sure you could do that if there's not a more, that's actually a pretty cost-effective way to do it. Jim, Ms. Paul brought up a point about rear yard access. Are you familiar enough with the lot to comment on that?
There is 9 feet in between the house and the property line, so I think there is enough room to maintain everything.
Topography's not an issue?
No, you can get down there, I mean, with the lawnmower and everything. As far as the noise for the central air conditioning, I'm not sure if there's anything that you're aware of that can be done to somehow mitigate the noise from that.
Where are your furnaces located? Oh, do you have heat pumps or furnaces in the house?
They're in the basement, heat pumps.
Okay, so basement's unfinished at this point or finished?
The basement is finished.
Oh, okay. So rerunning a line set is going to be problematic.
Yes.
Well, then maybe the suggestion of a fence and/or landscaping would help deaden the noise a little bit.
Yes, and we would be more than happy to do either or both. We certainly, we're in a position where we want the neighbors to be happy. So
I think you might be space constrained with regards to doing landscaping if the equipment stays on that side. So I think you're going to have to go with a solid fence of some sort.
that's a fair point. It's, the more you put in that space, the less accessible the rear yard would become and things of that nature. I'd be willing to leave it up to the neighbor to suggest
I know
what she would like
there's
installed.
public comment, yes.
Got to get closer a little bit.
I'd be willing to make the decision on whether a fence or arborvitaes is preferable based on public comment from the neighbors, if that's what the board would like.
And I do know there's a concern with the swale on the other side and how it flows through. We've been waiting for it to rain now since you finally did the grading. They had the grading, there was a little bit of a high spot in the middle. They had carved that down. The as-built appears to show that it may work now, but we're still waiting on a rainfall to determine what may happen. So that's something that I know we wouldn't be able to grant a final certificate of occupancy on that until we're satisfied that the water actually flows and isn't impeded and backing up onto the neighbor's property. So I just want you to be aware of that.
Understood.
We are not, and I don't think, from what I see from the forecast, I don't see rain in the next week. I haven't.
The rain we've had has been very short and sporadic.
Yeah.
And not indicative of what could happen.
It normally happens.
So Ms. Pulvers, I know you came here aggrieved and pretty much knew that a variance most likely would be granted. I can't say it will be, but the fact that we're trying to help you have this developer, Jamie, work with you, does that make you feel better?
It does. It does make me feel like I'm heard right now, so I do appreciate that with all of you right now. I feel like most of the time the house was built when the builders were there, the contractors were there. I wasn't heard at all. So I appreciate this.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is an important part of what we do, right, as the board. I mean, we have zoning regs for a reason, and unfortunately, I can tell that you do understand that a legitimate mistake was made by a third party. So, okay.
I do know it can't change. You can't redo the house. You can't move it. So I came in knowing this, but some kind of resolution
Okay, good.
is good.
Anything else for us?
Nope. Gonna pass the other neighbor.
Okay.
State and spell your full name, please.
Desiree Holsworth, DESIREEHOLTZWORTH.
You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. I have several things I'd like to say. First of all, I would like to address the comment of in legal writing. Yes, it does stay on the 1951, but there will be no frontage of less than 75 feet to build a residence. So that is on the deed.
On whose deed, I'm asking you?
On the deed that sold 20 feet of 2010 to 20 feet of.
No, I'm asking what parcel's deed? Is it Ms. Pulver's deed?
Correct.
Okay, so.
But part of that deed includes the 20 feet of the
No,
lot.
yeah, I'm aware of that, but
Yes, it
that's
says that on
pertaining to that parcel,
Not the
not the subject parcel. It's two different things.
So I'll just read. I'm requesting the board to consider this variance request with a full understanding of the project, not just about the setback. That's the issue on the agenda today. I cannot say if the issues have been present are a matter of ignorance or deliberate disregard for order and quality. The fact that this residence was allowed to be constructed without a single variance to begin with is questionable at best. I did attend a previous zoning meeting to raise concerns of the validity of the designation of non-conforming lot and concerns regarding the volume of stormwater that would be displaced. The approved building plans state that since the lot existed prior to 1947, it did not conform to current zoning requirements. I provided the township with deeds showing this lot was formed in its current 60-foot wide configuration in 1951. I brought this to the attention of Jim Majewski and subsequently the township manager. At a meeting with the two, the manager referred all opinion to Jim. I left with the impression that the township was more concerned with a potential lawsuit from the owners and builders than the validity of the details that I provided. The argument I was given was that since the parcel number did not change when the lot was formed, that it did not matter that the lot had changed at all. Building lots and tax parcels are not the same. A parcel is an identification for taxation purposes, and a lot number is recognized for subdivision building purposes. Prior to the construction, I voiced my concerns about the amount of stormwater that passes through the swale that encompassed the majority of the entire 60-foot width. There is a storm drainage pipe that runs under Yardley Morrisville Road, directing water into what was previously that swale. I provided video and photo of the amount of water during heavy rain. I also asked for information regarding how much stormwater that drainage pipe was designed to accommodate according to township plans. That information to date has not been provided to me. Since the first day of groundbreaking, my lot has flooded with every rainfall. I have expressed my concerns about the property damage that continues to occur for me. All of those concerns have been dismissed. The township advised me that it would be the builder's responsibility, and the builder advised me that it would be the township's responsibility to remediate this issue. To date, my basement sustains water damage with every rainfall. Not heavy, significant rainfall, every rainfall. When I purchased my home, I invested a large sum of money installing sump pumps and drainage around the perimeter of my basement. Since that work was completed in 2017, I have never had water in my basement. Jim Majewski has said to me that he does not understand why the house being built has created this issue. To be frank, it doesn't matter why. The fact remains that since this house was created, since removing the large swale for stormwater, my property sustains damage with every rainfall. I've asked numerous times what recourse I have, and I've never received a direct answer. I've been told on numerous occasions that the water will continue to flow as it always has. To date, that is not the case. I'm also told that additional grading would be required, which has also not been done. I've witnessed questionable practices during this entire process. One large example of note is the back patio and deck area. The approved building plans called for a 3x8 concrete slab outside of the basement doors. The builders poured a 12x20 area of concrete outside. The township was not aware of this until I pointed it out. They had no approval to change those plans prior to pouring the concrete. Furthermore, the deck was constructed on top of this concrete slab with no footings underneath. This is dangerous in any scenario, but more concerning given this land is basically a swamp with the amount of water it accumulates. This is an example of disregard for code and safety first and asking for forgiveness later. The misplacement of the foundation is another example, the one that brings us here today. Measures were not taken to do something thoroughly and professionally. It is my understanding that foundation location is common practice prior to building. Why was this not done? Was it another thing the township failed to ensure, or is this the responsibility of the builders? I've requested a copy of the as-built survey numerous times. I questioned the height of the residence in accordance with the approved building plans, but that information has not been made available. Not only has the survey not been provided, but Jim states he is waiting on a revised as-built survey. There have been no changes to the setback or the grading issues, so I don't understand why there would need to be a revision. Regardless, I have the right to see both surveys. Jim has also stated that a temporary certificate of occupancy has requested a temporary certificate of occupancy be granted. With the concerns I have, this does not seem like a reasonable accommodation.
So a lot of what you discussed, I can't comment on because I'm not at your house, but a lot of it's code enforcement, right?
It's not.
It's outside the governance of what we do.
And again, so, you asked Julie how she felt, and she said, at least I feel heard. Like, I have not felt heard at all, and the unfortunate reality is this is the only chance I even have the opportunity to speak about any of it, because it just...
That's why we let you...
No, so I appreciate it.
We let you speak, and you'll be in the minutes.
I understand that my concerns being on the other side of the house aren't really related to the setback, but everything that everything that came up previous to this was stormwater management. My land and house flood every time it rains. I have nothing but videos and pictures of this. Nobody cared.
I mean, it's only odd to me because you're uphill. So I can't wrap my head around how a house that's built downhill from you could create a flooding situation. But I'm not an engineer.
No, the stormwater exiting is not downhill. The stormwater exiting out of that Yardley Morrisville Road is not downhill from my house. The water starts up there. Sure, ultimately it goes downhill, but that's not where it starts. And I'm talking about a basement that's underground, so that's not downhill. And the water table doesn't necessarily care what's uphill or downhill. When you increase the water table, it just makes everything wet.
Ma'am, just to clarify, you're at 2012 Yardley Morrisville?
Yes, correct.
All right, just wanted to make that clear on the record.
I will tell you that I found out when I built my house that in this area, there are a lot of underground aquifers. And there's one on my property that when we built, we had to make some changes and raise our basement up rather than go down as others. But for some, like, when we looked at the last couple of times, it had shifted, and they told us it was like a shifting underground. It didn't stay in exactly the same place just because of the type of soil or whatever that was underneath us. It's just like a shifting aquifer, and there's a lot of that in this area. I mean, just that's, the topsoil is different than what's below, and there's a lot of water. We're near a river, and we have canals, so.
Yeah, and the storm drainage underneath Yardley Morrisville Road, that's an existing situation not related to this development.
I mean, it's
And Judy is correct. I know there's a perched water table near us. Actually, a property immediately uphill from me actually has a wetland in it on Morningside.
Yes.
And it's a perched wetland, so.
It's wet.
It is immediately
Mine was
related
more
in the
shiny,
fact that, sure, the pipe is on my lot, but all of the water flowed through what is this lot. So you took away where it used to go for the past, I don't know, 70 years?
Well, it sounds like our township engineer is waiting for a rainfall prior to issuing the CO. So eyes will be put on that part of the lot.
And what about my request for how much water that swale was supposed to accommodate in the first place?
I don't know what that request means.
Like, there's a pipe that exits under Yardley Morrisville Road.
Right.
There should be documentation that exists of what it's supposed to do. I mean, I don't think that someone gets permission to put a pipe under a road and drain stormwater with no plan for how much and where it goes.
If I may, Yardley Morrisville Road is a PennDOT road. We found no information from PennDOT on this pipe. There's no easement. I apologize for not giving the information on how much water the pipe can handle, therefore how much water the swale can handle, so I will give that to you. I did, I know, provide you with the as-built on October 3rd.
You did not provide me with the as-built. I've asked several times.
I emailed you, I can email you again.
When you email, can you also just forward the original one so I can see when it was actually sent?
Well, I can actually give you a copy right here.
Okay,
too.
but I'd also like to see
Yeah.
when you actually sent it.
No problem.
And I mean, again, sure, it's 8 inches, but if you're going to choose to shove something in a tiny spot, you only have 10 feet. And you know, you keep saying setting pins, setting pins. Nobody set a pin for that back corner. There was a wooden spike, but no surveyor actually set any pins. And according to the building plans, there's actually supposed to be pins set for the property corners. Those have never been placed either. So there's no property corners set and no pins were set for the foundation.
So what's your resolution? Have them tear the house down?
I mean, in a perfect world, yes, but I'm...
Does that seem perfect to you, for real?
No, I mean, no, I don't think that's reasonable. I don't have any expectation
Okay.
of that happening. I would like some water issues taken care of, and you say that we're going to hold off on a CO until we have heavy rainfall. I would like that to be actually adhered to.
Yeah, I mean, I just do, and I'm not here fighting on behalf of this applicant, but again, they could have built a 34-foot house, which would have cut deeply into this swale. They legally could have did that, and their engineering would have re-engineered the swale, like it did, but would have been more re-engineering. So realistically, the part of this applicant's property that affects your property has been least disturbed, least disturbed. They've done, because he moved it further, you actually have less disturbance. So this is actually a benefit for you.
My basement still floods. So, you know, like, and again, like, nobody seemed, like, is that the answer? Like, oh, well, that's on you now. Now you have to figure out what to do with your flooded basement.
Again, no, we're talking about code enforcement, right?
Yeah.
So I had, nobody on this board, we have 2 engineers up here who aren't on the board, but they're township engineers, and we have a supervisor up here. And they can all comment better on code enforcement than the 4 board members tonight. What I can tell you is, this is hard to document. I mean, do we have documented evidence that your basement wasn't flooding before this property was built? Stuff like that. And I'm just talking out loud. I have no governance over this. Pete doesn't, Judy doesn't, and Mike doesn't. And I understand you want to be heard, so that's why I'm talking with you. I'm trying to explain it to you. Jim's trying to explain it to Dan, because I do want you to feel heard. But I hope you understand when I said, like you said in a perfect world, and you laughed, and I was glad you laughed, because really tearing the house down isn't reasonable. So I appreciate that. And we hear you, so I think you have Jim's attention and you have Dan's attention. So, just continue to work inside our code enforcement department to make sure that the stormwater is running appropriately.
And we can also commit, I mean, Jamie was talking about to the plan south and I think some easier fixes. The plan north is more complicated in terms of the concerns that were addressed, but what we can commit to the plan north end of it is to continue to work with Jim's office and Remington and Vernick, so we're confident that the stormwater facilities installed here will work. If there is any remedial action that is required to be taken, that will be taken immediately until the township is satisfied that this lot is functioning appropriately. I'm not here to say that it's going to magically, fix and erase all the stormwater concerns on this lot, but we will coordinate, communicate with, and be responsive immediately to the township to make sure that this lot and the stormwater design functions as it's intended on the plan.
Mike, how do you suggest we safeguard for that? I mean, do we, at closing, escrow money?
I'd be happy to do that.
And then the one thing you said is there's nothing to prove. There's nothing to prove in my basement, but I have plenty of documentation of that lot before ground broke of the way water accumulated and flowed, and plenty of documentation afterwards that the water doesn't move anymore.
I feel like we resolved it. I mean, you're just.
Okay.
No, I mean.
So what does that mean for me in the meantime?
So,
Explain
Mike,
how
do you
that
want to explain
me personally.
to the neighbor again?
Sure. So we have a legal obligation not to create additional stormwater runoff as a result of this development. That doesn't mean that we're going to necessarily fix all of the broader stormwater issues, but that are created as part of this development. Jim indicated that there was an area on the site to the plan north that needed to be flattened, that work was completed in the last week, and that the township was looking.
There has been no grading since prior to that as-built survey. There has not been anyone there. I'm home, it's right outside my window, no grading has been done.
All right, well, Mr. McCaffrey is indicating that occurred in the last week and a half.
The original as-built, there was a high spot, and that was addressed. So I guess the first version of the as-built, which was submitted to Mr. Majewski's office, there was a comment from Mr. Majewski, there was a high spot within the swale, and that was addressed.
How?
I think it was longer than a week ago.
No, I think it was about a month ago that you guys had done that work. They had actually also inadvertently put some boulders, sort of an embankment for the swale, inadvertently on Ms. Holdsworth's property. So they moved those back and they cleared out that, and the grades on paper appear that they may work, but I want to see a good rain just to verify that that in fact is the case. If it's off, it's not off by much, it's off by a couple of inches maybe.
So typically, as part of a development, if we were here to build 8 lots, and we go through the process, at the end of it, we'd enter into a financial security agreement, there'd be cost estimates that are provided, and that's how the township has financial security to make sure the builder's building what they said they were going to build. And then at the end of the process, if the home as designed, or the homes as designed, and the basins or underground water, underground facilities aren't functioning as intended, the township has financial security that they are not releasing until remedial action is taken to make sure that everything is flowing as it's intended. In this instance, it was suggested, and Jamie has stated that he's agreeable to communicate and confirm with Jim and Dan in the township that there is, even though it's a single-family lot that's been constructed, that there is a holdback, some financial security that would be posted in an amount the township's comfortable with to ensure that the stormwater facilities are functioning as intended. So that is some additive measure to provide additional security that this will be completed and is functioning as it's intended to be, and if it's not, it provides additional incentive on the developer's end to make sure that there is expeditious remediation and mitigation that occurs.
Also, I would investigate contacting PennDOT. Jim earlier just said they do not have an easement for that pipe on your property.
I have.
It might involve hiring an attorney, is my point.
I have just one real quick. It'll go back to the first speaker about noise and noise. Do we have any codes on noise? And it'll also perk my curiosity as well. as you know.
Yes, we do have codes on noise. I don't believe a standard air conditioner violates
I wouldn't think
that provision. However, I appreciate the applicant's willingness to put up a fence or
I
some
do
other
too.
noise measure to help just mitigate that a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, of course.
Jim, is there an ordinance or is there a rule of like how far the air conditioners according to the line?
I don't believe we have that out there. Our general rule of thumb is that we want things to be at least 5 feet off the property line.
And then I have one more question as far as the stormwater. I mean, again, huge pits were built and this and that. A lot of things have been done. They don't work that well. You know, you spoke about planting arborvitae on the other side. Could planting arborvitae on my side at least help that root structure accommodate some of that extra water?
That won't be helpful.
I could certainly contact Jones Engineering, but I don't think planting arborvitae in the swale.
It would obstruct the water flow more than anything else.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunately, our trees and plantings, they don't mitigate that much, and they're not a permanent solution, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's just the permanent solutions aren't that effective, so was hoping to help it some other way.
Is there any other public comment?
Yeah, it blinked earlier. So is there public comment online?
No public comment on
Okay, I guess not. We got to come up with another signaling strategy here.
I mean, I think we need to talk about what's the mechanical language we use so this is executed appropriately.
I see 3 items: the concrete attachment for the tank, fence or landscaping, although I suspect it's going to more likely be the fence given how tight the lot line is there and the need not to have the planting get into the equipment. And then I don't know if the financial security escrow gets put into this or if that's already been handled separately. Is that handled separately legally already or with the township, or is it something we need to include to have it happen?
We don't have a legal mechanism to actually guarantee that, although I'm sure that in order to get their CO, they'd be willing to do that. But I think it might be appropriate just to add that to your motion.
Okay.
In terms of the fence, do we want to talk about a height? Right, probably makes sense. Ms. Pulver's in the room. Ms. Pulver's, did you have an idea what height fence would make sense to you? What texture fence?
I haven't even thought about it.
You're here now.
I do know the land kind of slopes down. I understand.
We got to put a microphone.
Oh, yeah, you need to come up. I'm sorry.
I understand that a fence makes sense in the middle of the houses.
You're really limited by the space between that and the lot line there, and the fact of needing access to their mechanical equipment.
Okay.
I mean, what about trees on your property?
We can plant trees on our property. We've already thought that.
I'd be willing to provide the trees and installation if you wanted
We would
a
love
few
that.
trees.
And there's a solution.
We knew in the beginning we were going to put trees up simply because they're, to us, because we love nature, they're better than a fence for us. And they provide more for animals in our area. But again, I understand that there's pretty much going to be a fence between the houses because it's limited space.
I would suggest a 6-foot-high solid fence, because I believe that will fall within what's acceptable for the township codes.
The max height for a residential rear and side yard fence is 7 feet, so it could be 7 technically. But if you wanted 6, you could do 6.
6-foot fence work for you?
Sure.
And then arborvitae's on your side?
That would be perfect.
Right, and,
Gives us privacy, it gives them privacy, and it blocks noise.
and then, can we say the fence runs what, the distance of the house? Not your house, his house?
Yeah,
There's no reason for it to go past it, front or back, right? We're all trying to work together. Okay. And then, what kind of language are we using, Jim, for the security agreement?
I would recommend that if a motion was made, that portion of it just say that escrow be provided by the applicant to guarantee the flow of drainage within the swale.
Based on township approval?
Yes.
He's taking good notes.
I'm going to take a run at this tonight.
And then
It's going to get interesting.
Are we also saying that a CO will not be granted until we have a heavy rainfall?
Well,
That's not part of this.
Yeah, that's not part of what we do.
That's a township.
That's,
and I just want to clarify, I was talking about a final certificate of occupancy. So we could grant a temporary certificate of occupancy to allow the homeowner to move in, but the project wouldn't be closed out until we had a sufficient rainfall to show that it either works or they need to do a little bit of additional work.
What's a reasonable escrow amount?
That would probably need to be done by the township engineer, I'm thinking.
We can agree to the township satisfaction between RVE and Jim's office, whatever they come up with that's reasonable, I'm sure we'll agree to.
I have a number in mind, but I'd rather not say it now.
Don't go over, you'll bust.
Mike, anything? Maybe fellas.
My only issue is the air conditioners. It's disappointing that that we got so far and we're still dealing with the air conditioners. But I think the fence and the trees are a good solution.
I mean,
It's everybody as close as we can.
realistically, Jamie,
Gotta get something going.
does it make more sense for you to move the air conditioners somewhere else away from your neighbor's house? And maybe she would prefer that as opposed to the fence and the arborvitae's.
I'd be willing to give the neighbor that option. So if she would prefer a fence and arborvitae's, leaving the air conditioners alone, I will do that for her. If she would prefer the air conditioners moved, in lieu of the fence and arborvitae's, we could do that.
Ms. Pollard, you want to come up and comment on that?
You can extend the condensate lines to feed them. There's certain
I think it's not
distance
solely just the air
limitations.
conditioners, it's the propane tanks too.
Well-
They're massive.
Okay, so you want,
So no matter what, we'll get blockage either way.
You want
whether it
privacy.
comes from this meeting or not.
Yeah.
just trying to make sure that our developer works in good faith with you. Thank you.
Also, just for the record, can we acknowledge that I'm Pulvers-Zito? Yes. My husband will be upset.
I understand.
All right, hearing no further comment, I guess we're ready for a motion, and somebody's been busy making notes.
All right,
so-
everybody hold your hat. This is going to be interesting. All right, I'll make a motion to approve Appeal Z2430. Based on the fact that they need a variance for a 9.35-foot setback, where 10 foot's required. However, we do have conditions to this motion. Condition 1 is a fence needs to be installed of 6 foot in height to run the length of the house on the subject parcel. Our developer has agreed to plant arborvitaes along the fence on the Pulvers-Zito property line. In addition, condition 3 is the propane tanks need to be affixed to a to-be-poured pad of cement, and they must be either affixed to the house or to that pad of cement. And lastly, our developer is going to enter into a security agreement with the township, whereupon sale of the property, an amount that will be approved by the township will be escrowed so that that will not be released until the township engineer approves the water flow in the swale to the on the north side of this property.
I'm going to second that. Good job.
Yes, I think that covered everything, but let's have a round here to make sure that there wasn't a nuance that was missed.
I think you nailed all three things that you mentioned.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. All right, back around.
Listen, sorry
to-
it happened. Bad break.
Appeals Z24-28, are they online?
No one on Zoom.
This
Dan,
was the first time. What's-
When did they submit their application?
Let me pull it up. He did confirm that he got the call-in information as well, and I emailed him about an hour ago. But let me just pull it up real quick, sorry. 28, right?
28, yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Talk about between a rock and a hard place. Having your house built inside the setback, holy smokes.
That's why I emphasize that stuff.
It was submitted on, Jim, it was submitted on September 5th. It was submitted on September 5th,
September 5th?
yes.
So we're up against the 60 days
well,
then?
No, because
They
we're
did.
having the hearing, he's not here.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
We're-
true.
We fulfilled our obligation.
Yeah.
So we can continue it, I guess, to the November 19th hearing.
Yeah.
Yep.
And hopefully they show then.
Actually, is Judy volunteering to come in that Monday night for a meeting so that she doesn't have to do other activities?
Wait, do we?
That's a Tuesday. the
No, I
19th.
was talking about the first Monday in November.
But there's not,
The 4th.
There's no meeting, right?
no, so we currently have nothing scheduled. There's nothing scheduled for the 4th, which is a Monday.
Yeah,
No,
we're
I-
only doing the 19th.
We're only doing the
Yeah,
19th.
so
That was
there's-
So if you're so inclined, you can cancel officially the November
Yeah, we'll do
4th
that.
meeting.
Yes, true.
Well,
We need to
let's-
do
Let's
that.
continue this to the 19th, and then we can cancel the 4th.
Okay, so then there would...
How many things do we have on the 19th?
I was getting there. There's 3 continuances, and then there's 2 new ones. So I haven't scheduled the 2 new ones, but just because December, we're probably definitely going to have 1 meeting, I'll probably just schedule them for the 19th.
You get it done.
And then I guess maybe anything that comes in like next week, we'll start to schedule for the 3rd. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
All right, just need a motion to continue this one then.
Look at which one it is. Okay. I'll make a motion that we can put a continuance to November 19th.
November 19th.
Z 24-28.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, next up is no, we have to cancel,
Cancel.
make a motion to cancel the November 4th zoning hearing board meeting.
I will make a motion that we cancel the November 4th, 2024 zoning meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, that meeting's canceled. Is there anything else that needs to be talked about?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
And I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, we're done.